Okay, welcome to a video on factor trees and expressing a number as a product of its prime factors. Okay, now very often in your GCSE exam they will ask you to express a number as a product of its prime factors. Okay, now that's fairly straightforward to do, but first of all we need to understand what the words mean. Okay, so let's look at the word factor. A factor is a number that goes into another number. Okay, so for example, a factor of 20 would be 2, 10, 4, 5, 1, 20. Okay, so e.g. if we wanted to write down the factors of 20, we'd have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Okay, they all go into that number. 1 goes in 20 times, 2 goes in 10 times, 4 goes in 5 times, and vice versa. So they are all factors of 20. Not to be confused with multiples. Multiples are a number that's in that times table. So a multiple of 20 would be 40, 60, 80, etc. Okay? A prime number is a number that can only be divided by itself and 1. Okay? i.e., 1 and itself are its only factors. Okay, so the only factors of a prime number are 1 and itself. Okay. Right, so that's what a prime factor, well that's what a prime number is, that is what a factor is. Let's think about some prime numbers before we move on. So 1 does not count as a prime number, okay? Just get that into your head now, 1 is not a prime number. However, 2 is a prime number because the only things that go into 2 is 1 and 2. That makes it a prime number. 3 is a prime number because the only numbers that go into 3 are 1 and 3. 5 is a prime number. The only numbers that go into 5 is 1 and 5. 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, etc. Okay? Please notice that 2 is the only even prime number. And the reason that is because every other even number has a factor of 2, which makes it not prime. Okay? Right, so let's look at question 1. We are expressing 40 as a product, oh, I'm going wonky, there you go, as a product of its prime factors. What does product mean? Product means multiply or times, okay, and its prime factors. Right, the way we are going to do this is using a factor tree. So we start with 40 at the top. Now, I would always look for a prime factor of 40. Now, you could take it off to be 4 and 10, but then you'd have to do branches off of 4 and branches off of 10. Okay, so I always look for prime factors. So I'm looking at any of these prime numbers up here that are factors of 40. So obviously 2 is a nice obvious one. So if 2 goes into it, I'd start with 2. That is prime, so we're going to circle it. How many times does 2 go into 40? It goes 20 times. 20 obviously is not prime, so we need to do a tree off of there. Let's look at a prime factor of 20. So 2 goes into 20. How many times? 10 times. 10 is not prime, so we do a tree off of there. What goes into 10? 2 goes into 10. How many times? 5 times. Now 5 is prime, so we could come off and do 1 and 5, 1 and 5, 1 and 5, we'd be going on forever, okay? 5 is a prime number, so as soon as you get to the end prime number, they're all prime, you stop, okay? What that is telling us, this is called a factor tree, that is telling us that 40 is the same as doing 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. It's our prime numbers being multiplied. You don't need to work that out, because if you worked that out, you'd get back to 40. Okay, you might want to check it. 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20, times 2 is 40. That is expressing it as a product of its prime factors. Okay, you could tidy it up slightly, because we've got 2 times 2 times 2. That is the same as 2 cubed, and then we've got times 5. Okay, that is your answer. That is what you'd write on a answer line. It doesn't matter what order you write them. You can write it as 5 times 2 cubed or 2 cubed times 5. It doesn't matter. Okay? Right, let's look at number 2. Same thing. Express 306 as a product of its prime factors. So Start with 306 at the top of your factor tree. 2 goes into it. So if 2 goes into it, I'd always take out a factor of 2. What is half of 306? 153. Okay. What goes into 153? Well, 2 doesn't, but I think 3 will. So let's try it. 3 is into 153. 3 is into 1 go 0 times. Carrying the 1. 3 is into 15 go 5 times. 3 is into 3 go 1. So that works. 3 goes into it. That's prime 51 times. Again, 2 doesn't go into that, so let's try the number 3. So we've got to do 3's into 51. 3's into 5 go once, remainder 2. 3's into 21 go 7 times. So it goes in 17 times. Now 17 I have circled because it is prime. Nothing goes into 17. Look, here it is in my prime number list. Nothing goes into 17 except for 1 and 17. Okay, so that's as far as we can go. That then tells us that 306 is 2 times 3 times 3 times 17. And we can tidy that up to be 2 times 3 squared times 17. That is how you express something as a product of its prime factors.